Jim,
Sorry.
we're pumped to be talking about Christian today. I know that he's one of those guys that you signed early on in his WWE run, and we've covered a lot of that stuff in the archives. So if you haven't already, go check out grillingjr.com. That's where you can find our Christian episode. But man, he's had such an incredible career. There's no way to cram it all into just one episode. So if we're picking up where we left off, he was a member of the Un-Americans. That was right after 9/11, and of course they break up. And that leaves all four men.
Christian. That's a good, excuse me, Conrad. That's a good crew right there. The late Test was the figurehead because he was the biggest. But there you got Regal, who's amazing. One of my favorite talents of all time. Lance Storm, who I think is another deeply undervalued talent. And there's Christian with his long hair. But he had to do something to step out of the shadow of Sting. So anyway, that's a good group. I like that group. Lance Storm is a gift to any promotion, and Christian is as well. And recently, as you alluded to, Conrad, his work at AEW has been excellent. His promos have been compelling, edgy, no pun intended there. But he had to work his ass off to step out of Edge's shadow, and he has done a great job of doing that.
It's been pretty remarkable to see him sort of recreate himself over and over again. Right. And
that's what great talents do, Conrad. They're not afraid. A key word: they're not afraid to reinvent themselves. They're not afraid to try new things. And you alluded to the turtleneck. That's a iffy thing. Is it going to work? Is it going to be silly or stupid? And it worked. He's got a little. I think somebody said on TV the other day it was kind of he thought he was a James Bond or somebody with his look. So whether that's true or not, I don't know. But he's been very effective in AEW and really an asset to the company.
It is pretty interesting to take a look back at his career and think about all the different things he tried, like the Un-Americans, like that group that we just talked about. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of talent there. It feels like it had, just as a faction, it could have worked. But do you think just the timing was off with the creative and calling themselves Un-Americans? Like if they had called themselves something else, that group of guys, I still think is interesting.
Yeah, I do too. They were good. They were good pieces to the puzzle, and they were willing to get out there. And I always admire those guys as the head of talent relations and as their supervisor, so to speak. You love those guys because they're never late. We knew that Tess had some issues. The other three did not. Regal had issues, but he got up past them. God bless him. I love Lord Regal. And then Lance Storm. How do you get a better employee and a better talent than Lance Storm? Right. These guys are always going to be on time, Conrad. And that's a big thing. They're reliable. And you know how I feel about reliability. It's a key element. So you never had to worry about those cats. And they could work with, as the old cliche goes in pro wrestling, they could work with anybody and enhance the match or make the match better. I love working with those fellas.
We should mention that Christian is going to wind up teaming with Chris Jericho after the Un-Americans faction. And they do a fatal 4-way tag team TLC match on Monday Night Raw. What a group this is. You've got Kane and The Undertaker with the tag straps there, defending against Jeff Hardy and Rob Van Dam. Also Bubba Ray Dudley and Spike Dudley. And then there's Chris Jericho and Christian. None of this feels like a traditional tag team. We're used to seeing Bubba with Devon or Jeff with Matt Hardy or Edge with Christian. So everything's sort of shuffled a little bit here. But this was a TLC match live on free TV on Monday Night Raw. Did you consider that to be a risk at the time with all the high stakes and all the high risk, injury prone stuff that you could see in a TLC, and it's not on pay-per-view? It's on TV where you're going to have hard outs and breaks, and
Right.
it's a little risky, no?
A little risky, yeah. But the one thing he knew, or at least I thought, and it worked, I believe, is it got a rating.
Oh yeah.
TLC's magical in that respect. And you had enough of the established elements of the TLC franchise in that four-way that you knew it was going to be successful. A lot of really, that picture that you showed, the graphic there that Bull put up, there's a lot of really good talent.
Hall of Famers.
Yeah. So I had confidence that the match was going to be exciting and work. And the TLC name is going to get you a rating, and all that seemed to work out.
Christian and Jericho don't wind up winning that match, but they do win the tag titles the next week on Raw, and they keep it for a few months. But yeah, Jericho and Christian were tag champs, in case you forgot.
Yeah, and good tag champs. Again, you got two talented guys that you could always rely on, that could work with any team and make that team better or better than they normally would be. It just was it was good to hire you. When you hire good workers, they're supposed to be able to work with anybody at any company. And those guys, Jericho and Christian, had those attributes. They could work with anybody and have a good match. And their reliability factor is beyond compare. So it was a good time. I enjoyed the hell out of that era.
We got to go ahead and mention what happens, with these tag straps next, because this is a tag team I have to admit I don't think about very often, but when I do, it tickles me. I love the tag team of Chris Jericho and Christian, but when they lose their tag titles, that run comes at the hands of Booker T and Goldust.
Yeah.
What a crazy odd couple tag team that was. But man, it was fun, was it not?
Yeah, and here's the thing: they both could work.
Yes.
They were hungry. They were getting some spotlight on them, which is good and well deserved. And I thought that Booker and Goldust, they were so different together. You got a black man and a androgynous man, and I thought that was a great combination. Again, because when the bell rang, they weren't gimmicks. They could work. Booker was a great worker, and probably still could be. Do you ever listen to Booker's commentary on NXT?
How great is he?
He's funnier than hell.
Dude, Shucky Ducky, come on.
Yeah. Quack, quack. Shucky Ducky. Quack, quack.
I don't know how you can't have fun hanging around Booker T. One of the most charismatic, fun dudes in all of wrestling.
He's one of the best and a good dude. I was the guy that encouraged him to tell his story about going to prison and rehabilitating himself, getting out of prison and making his way in the Indies with his brother, Stevie Ray. Booker's just, his story is great. And I'm proud of him. He's got a wonderful family, and he's got a good little business building there in his school and his little promotion in Houston. So he's made the transition very well. Booker T is a great example of how a wrestler could redesign or relaunch their own career, because that's what he did. And he's successful at it. And now he's got a regular gig. He's on TV every week, and he's funnier than hell. If you listen closely to his commentary, it's very entertaining. So I'd love to work with Booker T someday. I think we'd have a blast.